Okay, today we're going to start learning how to use Adobe InDesign to create some posters. Before you can start on the tutorial, we just need to do a few things. So if you go into the Google Classroom, I have loaded up the fonts that you will need. So you can get different types of fonts from the web and download them and install them. So you'll see a zip file. And when you click on that within the Google Classroom, you'll need to first hit the download button. And it should download into your web browser. Once you have that downloaded, you can close out of the Google Classroom or of that part of it for now. You might need the tutorial up. And then what you will need to do in your downloads, I'll just move that up into the recording window. You should see a little zip file. And then when you click on that, you'll see a folder. So you need to open the folder, and those are different styles. They're just different variations of the same font. In order to install them on the laptop, you just double click and install font. Mine is just saying that it's already there. Yours should just go ahead and install. So you just need to double click all of them and install that font. Now, if you're working on the school laptop and it doesn't allow you to install the font, don't worry, that's okay. Hopefully it will, but you can just use a similar looking font. But that's how you install fonts. So that's your first step, is to download and install the fonts you need. Then the next thing, you need to find the application Adobe InDesign. Now it should appear hopefully on your dock, but if it doesn't appear on the dock, a good way to find it is to press the F4 on your laptop, and F4 will show you all of the applications that are on there, and you should be able to find Adobe InDesign. It has a pink icon. Another way that you can find it is by using the spotlight feature in the top, and you can look for InDesign. So when you launch InDesign, it may have some of these palettes. It may or may not have some of these palettes open. Don't worry about it. I'm just going to put mine away because we'll get to those later. You should have the opening screen. I'm just going to minimize that so you're not seeing other things in the way. And we are going to create a new document. So this document, we look at the intent. For this, we'll leave the intent as print and the size of A5, so page size A5, and then we need to set some margins. So we'll put in, for this particular exercise, 10mm margins all the way around, and in order to get them the same all the way around, you just click on the little sort of chain link, and that means all the margins will be 10mm. Now, I did put a PDF version of this tutorial on the Google Classroom. The initial setup is in American inches, so if you're following the PDF, just go ahead and convert. I've done a little bit of conversion so that we're working in metric system. The other thing that we will want to do is add a little bit of bleed. Now you won't see the other options until you click More Options. And then you get this thing called a bleed. And I'd like you to set that to 6mm. And again, just click the link and it should change them all the way around. And bleed just means it's a little area outside the edge of the margin, so that if you were to print this and use a guillotine to cut off the edges, the color goes all the way to the very, very edges. For this particular exercise, it's not that important because this is just a practice exercise. But if we were doing something in the real world, we always add a little bit of bleed to the outside so that we can make sure our color goes to the very edge, and there's just a little margin for error for cutting and guillotining. So again, print A5, we've changed it to 10 millimeter margins and the bleed, and we click OK. And then you'll see your page, your blank page layout in InDesign. So InDesign is what industry people use to do different types of layouts, and you can see here, this is the base of the layout, and then this little gap in between the purple and the black is the margin, and that little bit on the outside is our bleed. So we'll go over into the bleed just with our basic colors for our background. So that's step 1, getting it all set up. And before we do anything else, let's do a save. So you go into File, Save As, and it's always a good idea to have a folder. So when you get here, and if it's going to save it to the desktop, let's just make a new folder on your desktop. So if you see this view, if you hit the down arrow, you get some more choices, and new folder, and we'll put InDesign poster work. So we're going to create a folder, and then inside of there we'll call this neon, and I'm just going to call it dash poster. And also, since it would be a good idea if you put your initials, so I'm going to put JM for mine, you put your initials. And that way, if you were turning those in, etc., on Google Classroom, then we've just got an indication of whose assignment this is. So that's the initial setup stages. In the next video, we're going to go on to actually doing some of the design.